Well, let's try to plow out another one of these. Hi there. My name is Cody. Nebraska Dragon Ball player. Um, if you watched the video before this one, it was the Buhan deck. Um, this video, I kind of wanted to show deck building processes. I found a Reddit post that I guess I'll give this dude Trip Edge. Yeah. So I'm sorry if you don't want me to kind of go through this, but it was asking for help with a Ginyu Mecha Frieza deck, and it looked like he was trying to build a Babidi deck, and I feel this would be a fun one to do because I played Ginyu Babadi until the Mecha Frieza deck came out. So I thought I would be able to kind of give a little bit of input. The video is probably going to be a little bit long. I'm just probably going to talk for a little bit, but hopefully I get to kind of show what I look for in deck building and issues that I see that some people try to do. So hopefully this can kind of give a little insight of my thoughts when it comes to how I build a deck. I'm going to have to try to get into the mindset where Mecha Frieza isn't really a deck and that Ginyu is more of like the better leader at the time when trying to build the Ginyu deck. So he did post two lists, so there was a Ginyu deck and there was a Mecha Frieza deck, so this will be a little bit interesting. I do have a bottle of water with me, so if you do hear slight pauses, it's probably me drinking some water. So the two links I have up on here is I have the DBS card game Reddit, and I have the card list from the Dragon Ball website, just so I can kind of show comparisons of certain cards if it comes up. Normally I could do a lot of it off the top of my head. But yeah, we can get right into it. So the post, what he has built is roughly something I can kind of agree with. Also, I should mention with the Ginyu deck. So we're going to start with the Ginyu deck, and if I don't go too long, I'll also go into the Mecha Frieza deck. So with the Ginyu deck, the one thing, I have the chat logs from my group chat of when I was trying to build the deck. Not really any help from friends who gave a little bit of input. So this was kind of just my whole thought process of how I built the deck. So let's see. Sorry if I'm gonna be a little stale on this. Just gonna kind of drift around a little bit. So here's the list that he put up. I guess we can bring this down. So right now, the list that he has, I would. Does he have it organized by color? It looks like he does. So we could bring these a little closer together and make some nice groups for colors. And then the sideboard we could just leave alone. So the first issue, oh, I guess Bulma is a blue card. So the first issue I notice when it comes to a Ginyu deck is that he is not playing Goldos. Ginyu is really strong because you get to play Goldo, and he normally gets to be a free, like kind of like a free spell if he comes out of your life. Also, it helps with your yellow. So if you draw one in the later game, you do have to play yellow cards for Ginyu to be more effective. You normally don't want to play a Crusher Ball down just so you can Cold Bloodlust and Crusher Ball for the rest of the game. That's the one big kicker with playing Ginyu, in my opinion. I think Goldo is a super strong card, it falls under versatility that I would prefer. It's a defensive card. It has a combo cost on it, and it allows some sweet plays where you can bring out a Goldo to kill a person going first, playing turn 1 Kaba, turn 1 Boos, turn 1 Brawlies, stuff like that. You can punish because Goldo is a card, because when Goldo comes into play, tap it down, attack it with your leader, your opponent has to spend roughly 2 cards to save it, which no one's going to do. If they do that, you're 100% okay with it. So that is the first thing I noticed. Playing Bulma and Whis is another thing I don't feel is necessary, especially if you're also playing Objection. So the Bulma Whis package is a good package for the decks that want to go from 4 to 6, but is able to tap out. So Babadi is one of those decks that do want to go to 4 to 6, but Ginyu is one of those leaders where you never want to tap out. Ginyu is a deck that you have to play a turn behind. That's the one thing to keep in mind. So normally, in my opinion, you'd be playing the Whis more as energy, and the Bulma is just a tutor to get a Whis out of your deck, which you're going to have. The consistency is not going to be worth giving up the survivability, in my opinion. Bulma is a pretty good card because she's a 0-5000 combo, lets you play more defensive, which I think is really important when you're playing Ginyu. For Senzu Bean, I think, sorry about that. For Senzu Bean, probably one of the best blue cards. Every deck, I don't think you would not include 4 of it. I could definitely kind of vouch for that card in almost any single deck. You normally want to play blue just so you can play Senzu Bean. Senzu Bean allows you to be really aggressive. It also allows you to be really defensive. And when it comes to Ginyu, being able to play defensive is more important than playing aggressive, especially when you're trying to play a Babadi list where most of your threats are red. And I just realized that this is also yellow. 3 energy boosted Boo. I think Boo's a great card. I can agree with the 3 ofs. It's normally one of the cards that I try to cut pretty early if I feel like I'm tight on space and want to keep consistency. The card's really good in the early game. It gets a lot worse in the later game, but it is also potentially really good in the later game due to the fact that you can play it, draw a card, draw a threat, and then the threat gets you out. For Objection, I disagree with 4 Objection in a lot of decks I build. Objection is just one of those cards where it's really good if you play it on turn 2, turn 3, and then it just falls off really hard. You never want to see it come out of your life, and you never want to draw it because of the main issue is drawing dead in this game is lethal. Whenever you draw an Objection out of life when you're trying to survive for a turn, it normally gets a lot harder for you to live on that turn, which can end up making you lose more games. That's why the number 3, in my opinion, is where you normally want to sit. It doesn't make your deck too clunky, and it lowers, in my opinion, the percentage that you die on crackbacks. Because if you take life and trying to survive the same turn, you want as minimal chance that you're drawing a dead card from your life as possible. And I think 3 Objection is the nice number where you have a higher chance of seeing it in your opening hand, and you have a lesser chance of seeing it late game. 3 Crusher Ball, 4 Cold Bloodlust. Crusher Ball is a card I really enjoy. I think it lets you play really defensive when you're playing in a Ginyu deck that's trying to play Babadi. I would only put Crusher Ball maybe at 2, because I feel you still have to play Goldo, so you have to find the room for that. And then another card I like playing Babadi Ginyu is playing Battering Laser, because you're so reliant on Babadi hitting that having Battering Laser will confirm that, especially in a Cold Bloodlust meta. Also, Battering Lasering Oasis Coercion is also really good. And then, so for Cold Bloodlust, this is correct. Obviously, it's probably the best card in the game. Just being able to negate any threat the turn it comes out is really strong. Obviously, not as good against red threats, minus Babidi, of course, and Gotenks. I guess I forgot to mention that one. That one's also, but things like the Gohans, the Champa, the Jiren, so on and so forth. And then down to the red. So for Jiren, I think for Jiren is correct. Jiren is a really strong card. It's your removal. You're not playing Beerus's anywhere, so Jiren is how you're probably going to be winning the game. Super strong card, super good. Highly agree with that. For Destructive Terror Champa, this number I'm a little skeptical about. I think if I had to make a decision, I would be playing 2 Destructive Terror Champas. A good replacement for it, if you want to be playing more defensive, is you can just straight cut the Destructive Terror Champas and just be playing Ability Unleash Ultimate Gohans. It lowers your consistency of when you cast Babidi, but in my opinion, what we're trying for the most is kind of just playing a mid-range red, blue, yellow deck with just a casual Babidi being able to resolve. Try not to focus too much around playing Babidi, but also just having it in there for matchups where it feels really good. Cell, androids, anything that doesn't play Cold Bloodlust for the most part. If you're playing Babidi against a deck like that, it's normally like pretty satisfying to drop it on 7. And you kind of get to go off after that. If you get luck, sometimes you can whiff, especially in the Ginyu deck, you can whiff. 3 Miraculous, I like that number. I think I would have cut Destructive Terror Champa before I cut a Miraculous Ultimate Gohan in a list like this. The Triple Strike is nice on Destructive Terror Champa. Its effect is a little irrelevant right now. It doesn't really kill Kale, doesn't kill the bigger Brawlies. Doesn't kill Boo, I guess I could say, and it also doesn't kill Perfect Force Cell. Does kill the androids, but I feel people might be leaning more towards trying to get Perfect Force Cell out rather than playing an android list. And if they do play the android leader, if they do get the 4 life, you do not kill the 2-mana androids because they're 20Ks. 4 Gotenks, that's, this is the best card to hit off Babidi. You want to play as many Gotenks as you possibly can. Card's really good. Biggest downside of it costs 3 red to cast. So that's the hardest part of the whole hardest part of the whole deck is casting this card consistently. 3 Babidis. I do like 3 Babidis. You could potentially make the argument to go down to 2 because of the statement I made where you kind of just want to play like this mid-range deck where you're just playing cool red threats and eventually just going into a Babidi. You do draw a lot of cards playing Ginyu due to the fact that you try to flip yourself as fast as possible and try to survive from there, in my personal opinion. So playing 2 of them, you'll eventually get into a Babidi. Playing 3 of these, my friend likes to use a saying called the Rule 3, where it's 1 in life, 1 in hand, and then 1 in energy is normally like a statistic you could be working around when you're trying to play 3 ofs. The 4 Gohans, I do like the Gohans. I think it's a very good tempo play. It's very red heavy, so I don't think you're going to be casting it on turn 3 as much as you're going to be casting it on turn 4 and 5, because because of the original statement is you normally want to play 1 mana behind when you're playing Ginyu, just so you can open up Cold Bloodlust plays, Whisa's Coercion plays, stuff like that. So that, I guess, would be my those are my thoughts on the deck so far of what I sit in here. We can go into the sideboard after that. So 3 Jocos probably want to bring in for the Cell matchup. I could agree with that. I like playing a main board. It's a solid blue card, and it's also solid in the main board. You normally want to steal games off of Cell when they're trying to tee in, so being able to get that time walk play on them is pretty strong when you're playing Jocko in the main. Jocko in the side, I feel people can sideboard more tech against you, where Jocko's not going to be as relevant, because they might want to be playing a slower game where Jocko becomes less useful, and then it just becomes basically what every card becomes, which is just like good energy. 3 of your counters you're putting in the board. I can't see why you wouldn't put them in the main. Putting them in the board is meaning when you want to play a slower game is you want to sideboard into the mid-range game, and try to keep it really heavy combo in the main. I think that would be a good idea if Cold Bloodlust didn't exist as much, but seeing as it does, I think you want to play more of the defensive game and then go into the aggressive game. That's kind of my thought process on that. But definitely it would be a meta call, up to you. If you want to put them in the board, if you feel your meta is more aggressive and you think you can get away with just playing Babadis, on turn 4, turn 5 pretty consistently, more power to you. Vados Assistance. I think this is the weaker of the counter. Reason I want to play this is that a lot of your threats are pretty big. Anytime Vados Assistant would ever be really good, from what I can tell, is to just save the ability to Unleash Gohan. Also, not being able to untap a mana from playing a counter, which is what you would get if you were playing 4 Whisa's Coercion. It doesn't seem as strong because you can't Sensu Bean into it. You can't play a 1-10,000 combo kind of card, and so on and so forth. 2 Mafubas. So Mafuba, really good against red decks, really good against Buhan, really good against Zamasu. Solid sideboard card. I do like 2 of those. Bad Ring Laser. I guess he spelled it later. Oh man, I don't know why I find that funny. This card I'd play 2 of. Personal opinion. Playing a 1 of, you're not going to see it as consistently in the matchups that you're going to be boarding it in, and I think you want to, when you board in cards, you want to see them as consistently as possible, but you also want to have enough space to counter enough matchups. That's why 2 I think is a good number. 3 would be an also strong number in my opinion, just because you can, or I should say it's not you can. You want to see it more against the yellow matchups where you want a Bad Ring Laser, their Cold Bloodlust when you're trying to play Babadi or something along those lines. And then this is an interesting one, which is 4 energy boosted Beerus. I don't know what you would board these in against. When you're playing for Jiren, this is normally what your removal package is going to be. You could play 1 or 2 of these in the main just to give yourself 6 removal spells. But playing 4 in the board, I don't know any scenario where you'd be boarding 4 of these in, unless if you're just completely off the Babadi list and just going onto this blue, like a blue-red removal strong kind of deck, but you're still not playing counter spells, because if you're playing counter spells, I think you're just taking out too many cards and your color balance gets a little off. Another thing that you also want to count out is how many combos you're playing in terms of 1-drops and 0s. So here you're playing 6 right here, 10, 14. So your deck's a little bit weak. 14 is actually like not the worst number. I thought it was a little less, but you're a little bit weak on on early pressure, and you're also going to be a little weak on late game survivability as well because of not playing the 0/5000s. Playing 0/5000s allowed you to tap down to one or two mana and still be able to survive pretty big attacks. So that's just a number to keep in mind. But other than that, I think this is a good first draft. If you did sleeve it up, you could probably notice a lot of the flaws. I'm not sure if the person played with this deck and just was asking for help after testing with it. But if you sleeve this up and start playing with it, you could definitely notice some flaws. So this is the list that he made. And then let me pull up the first draft I had. Okay. So I just have main boards. I don't have any of the sideboard text, so I can't really help you out in here other than give you maybe a little bit of suggestions, which we can come back to in a bit. So let's see my first draft. So when I was playing this deck, I think about two and a half, 3 weeks ago, I think. About 2.5 weeks ago. So I'll show you this list that I came up with. So here was my first draft. So my first draft, yellow, I was actually on the same plan as you in my first draft. Playing 11 yellow cards. I was playing Cold Blood combo, Crusher Balls. I was playing the Bulma. I was only playing 2 Boo. I was playing 3 of the Whis Ramp, 4 Senzu Beans, and 4 counters. So in my list, I decided to remove the objection plays that you decided to do. And I decided to just go only on Whis Ramp, just to give myself a little bit more 1 costs. Senzu Bean, obviously, and then I was also playing counters in the main and Jocos in the main. So these were my little bit more defensive options than compared to what you had. And then I just played the red package, in my opinion. So I wasn't playing the 3 mana Gohan. At the time, I thought the card was a little bit weaker, and that's probably why you won't see it in any of my drafts. I have a different opinion about it now, that if I had to go back to it, I would try to fit in a couple more, just to have more red threads, because the biggest problem that I've seen with the deck is that Babadi is kind of a whiff king, but you normally only want to resolve 1. That normally finishes games off pretty quickly. So the package for red was 4 Jiren, 4 Gohan. This is the 6 mana Gohan. 4 Gotenks, 4 Champa, 4 Babadi. So if I ever resolve a Babadi, I have 16 targets. Hopefully I don't draw enough cards to not see any of these. So Babadi whiffs, and then also I just keep the defenses up, which is what Boos, Bulmas, the counters, Jocos, Crusher Balls, Cold Bloodless, and the combo. And I guess I was on the same plan where I'd probably play a Crusher Ball as mana and Cold Bloodless things if I needed it. So this was my first draft, just to give you kind of an idea of where my mindset kind of went to. Okay, then we go to my second draft. So after looking at it a little bit more, I went into a second draft. I never tested the first draft. This is kind of just theory crafted in my head for the most part. Wonder if... This is definitely not my second draft. Oh no, okay. My numbers are wrong. There's 19 blue cards right here. That's why that one was posted. Okay. So here was the second draft. I don't remember how many drafts of this deck I made, so this is kind of me just rambling a little bit. So here in the second draft, as you can see, the biggest difference is I went down to 2 Crusher Balls, and I went down to 4 Goldos in the yellow. Playing Ginyu Goldo is still really good, because as I said, it allows you to play more defensive, so on and so forth. here I was playing Bulmas, and I was still playing Bulma, so I think I was still on the 4 Bulma, 3 Whis. I went up a boo from my last list. Yeah, I went up a boo. 4 Senzu Beans, 4 Whis counter, 2 Jocos. And then this is the biggest thing that changed. So my red threats went down significantly. So I went from 20 red cards to 15 red cards. Went down to the 3 of Babidi, 2 Champas, 2 Gohans, but I kept the juice, which is the Gotenks and the Jirens, the things that you want to hit off Babidi more than anything. So basically what the thought process was in a lot of this is the more red cards you put in, the more clunkier your combos get. So when I talked about putting in more 0-5000 combos, that's where these Goldos come in. Also the card Goldo is just extremely defensive, so it's really good for those reasonings. Bulma was one of those. This is a 7 card package, was to play the Whis package, so Bulma and the Whis ramp. I found some room to play 3 boos, which I do still. I think I still boo's one of those cards where I think you can cut if you're trying to fit more good stuff in. If I went down to 2 boo, I would probably play maybe a Gohan. Potentially I could have cut a boo, some Bulmas, maybe like a boo, a Bulma, and a Whis, and probably a Champa, and just put in 4 of the promo Gohans. That's also like an option you can do in there. I think I would like that a lot more when you're playing something like this. The Gohans kind of take the place of that boo, so you're only playing 2 boos, 3 Bulmas, 2 Whis, so I mean, like, you still have a decent amount of blue cards. And also you get to play the Gohans, which is another red threat, so Babidi has more targets, so you'd go up to 19, so you're closer to that 20 that I was originally at, where I feel 20 is fairly consistent when you're playing Babidi and going into 2 threats. So this was the second draft, so as you can see, changed a good amount, because I wanted to play Goldo. And then I think I settled on this list, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, I love how prepared I came for this. (2015, 19, 2020). What card did I cut? Oh, did I just miscount? 4-8-12. 4-8-12. 15. No, 4-8-12. So bad at math. 18-20. Yeah, so this is 20. What did I cut? Oh no, this is 20. What? 14. Oh, I was missing a red card. Ha. I don't know, because I think I miscounted down here. 4, 8, 13, 15. No? Alright. Am I freaking out? 4, 8, 12. Oh, there's 14 yellow. That's where I messed up. Alright, I'm sorry about that. That's really funny, though. So, yeah, actually... Did I really stick with the second draft? I'm a little surprised at myself right now. I'm sorry, I'm realizing something, so this is kind of fun for me to figure out. I know I shared this deck with someone too, so I want to see if I actually did keep that as is. I'm probably not going to find it. That's hilarious. Alright, so I guess I get to make my third draft of what I would personally play in the main deck. Nice. Nice. Ooh, this is going to be fun. Alright, so let's see. My third draft. Okay, so let me show you what I would make for my third draft. So I think 4 Goldo, 4x combos, 4x Cold Bloodlust. Now here, I think I would bring in. So here what I'm debating on is I want to play Bad Ring Laser if I was playing a Ginyu deck right now. So I think you could bring in 2 Bad Ring Lasers in the main and cut the Crusher Balls. It gives you less defensive options, but it gives you more consistency options, which I think we can find room for. There's a chance we can also do 2 Crusher Balls. So for that would be 4, 8, 12, 16. So we're playing 16 yellow. And then the blue. Okay, so the blue, I think I'd play 4 Boo. I think I would get off of the Bulma Whis plan right now. Bulma Whis gives you more 1-drop options, but I think it makes you less consistent in the long run, seeing as you have to play a turn behind. So Whis isn't a good card until turn 5 in Ginyu, in my opinion. Because if you play it on turn 4, you do get the 5th mana, but you don't know what that mana is going to be, which is the biggest problem. If you normally want it to be a blue source, but sometimes if you just get a red card, you're probably like in a very vulnerable position where you can just die on a crackback, especially when it comes into that turn 4, turn 5 turn, where people are ramping up and stuff like that. So 4 Boos I would play. I'd play 3 Objection over the Whis package. So 3 Objection allows you a lot more card slots with doing the same thing. And back to the Objection plan is you'll want to play 3 for that. You don't want to clunk up the deck with Objections. I'm definitely playing 4 Senzu Bean. I do like 2 Jocos. Jocko has just always been a wonderful card. It's one of those cards that it has versatility into it, but it's normally going to be mana unless it's matchup dependent, and then it's going to be a snap keep in your opener. Also, it's really good to see when you're on a defensive side, especially from life or from cards, and you realize you're on the backhand. Jockoing 1,000 combo back up to their hand, either to survive, is really strong, especially when they're trying to push with only 1 threat. So I'm a big fan of Jocko in blue, just personally. I'll probably be playing 4 Whis counter. I want to play more defensively. Whis counter kind of lets you do that portion of the deck. I'm trying to think of if there's any other blue cards I would want to play in here. I want to say no, because the Bulma package I think is getting replaced with these 2 Bad Ring Lasers and 3 Objections. So you'd be playing 4, 8, 12. So you're looking at about 17 here so far, which gives you 23 slots to do in red. And then this is where you got to be a little safe. So in red, 4 Jiren. Definitely. Jiren's probably the best card. 4 Gotenks. If you're trying to play a Babidi list, you always want to play 4 Gotenks because you want to try to hit them as much as possible. I'm trying to think of. So our other options, we could play playing the Baby Gohan. Now, the problem with playing the Baby Gohan, actually, there's not too much of a problem. And the reason why there's not too much of a problem is because all of our yellow cards and all of our blue cards all cost 1 blue. So we only need to devote 1 blue and 1 yellow throughout the whole game. And our yellow mana is probably going to be these Goldos or Crusher Balls, depending on the matchup. Also, Bad Ring Laser is good yellow mana. So let's see. I think with the promo Gohan, I think you want to play for the promo Gohan. Solid 3-drop, 0-5000, fits in those wonderful categories. For Babadi, I think I want to play 3 Babadi. Potentially only 2, but we'll play with 3 and I'll see if I can do the math in my head if I like that or not. 1 Champa. 1 Champa is just for the chance that when the card's actually a lot better. When you hit it, it's a really strong attacker and it really ends games, but I feel it's so situational that it'll probably end up being red mana more than it will a potential threat. So normally it's just like that one of that you probably want to throw into your deck, just hoping that you hit it off of a Babidi, but even if you don't, you really don't care. It also opens up room for probably playing for the 6 mana Gohan, which of this card's extremely strong, especially if you're depriving your hand or you're just trying to go off a lot more. This threat can be played on top of you going off. Solid card. Really enjoy it. Really strong. But how many threats does this give us? So this gives us 16, so this gives us 20 threats. So right now we're sitting at too many cards. Alright, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Okay, so 20. I did bad math in my head, didn't I? Yeah, so we're at 33. So we had 17 spots left. So this is where cuts have to happen. I'm debating on what I would want to cut more. I think you would cut 1 Crusher Ball. Bring that down to 15. I think you can cut 1 6 mana Gohan and 1 4 mana Gohan. I think actually you want to play 4 of the promo Gohan. So this would bring it to 19. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 19. So this brings it to 19. This brings it to 15. Because then you can choose to cut a Boo. So here's where you get deck options. So I can cut a Boo here, or I can cut a promo Gohan. Or you can cut the Champa if you want to. I kind of like playing the 1 Champa just because I like having the random options. If the card ever becomes relevant, there's a chance that it will, and it'll be really good when you play it, and you'll look like a genius for playing the 1 of. That's personal preference. I mean, up to you in that scenario. This would be a thing that would need to get tested. If 4 promo Gohans feel better than having 4 Boos would, I think if I had to take a guess, I would play the 4 Boos. Personally. So I think you could play 3 of each of the Gohans. So you bring this down to 18. So you have 32, and then this brings it up to 50. So this would be what I would try first, and see how that goes for you. If you're trying to play a Ginyu deck, I feel like this list would be fairly solid. I would want to test it though. I'm kind of curious on how many games you would play where basically you're defending, playing cool mid-range threats, playing Jirins, like turn 4 Jirins, turn 3 Jirins when you're playing Objection, Gohans to gain that tempo advantage, just like solid leader attacks and stuff like that. And eventually getting to that turn 7 where your opponent tapped a little too far or tried to push a little too far that you survived through, and just being able to battering laser a Cold Bloodlust, or being able to battering laser a Whis' Coercion on a crackback on turn 7 where you're just like playing Babidi with an energy or 2 open, and then you just hit 2 threats, battering laser their Coercion, Cold Bloodlust, anything along those lines, and then just blowing them out of the game after that. That is this is probably what I'd sit on. The only thing you can think that I would think of trying to maybe shave one, if you'd want to try it, would be you can shave a wheeze counter. Go down to 3 wheeze, so you keep the 4 boos, but you go down to 3 wheeze counter, so lose a little bit of vulnerability to keep a little bit more of a tempo red play, which would be playing another promo Gohan. I could see that being really strong. But this like probably would kind of like highlight Ginyu in the most part. Just being able to play Goldo is a really good reason to play Ginyu. Keeping your defensive options up, so when you do get yourself to 4 life from gaining all that card advantage, you just have more survivability tactics, and just being able to gain the card advantage or equate the life to card advantage with a Babadi is your ultimate goal. But yeah, comparison to the first list, as you can see, we're playing way more yellow cards. We're not playing the Whis package, so that kind of clears up 6 slots. We're playing more defensive by putting the Whis Corrigens you got in the board in the main. Jakas are also in the main, which is another defensive option. Really cutting down on the big threats and playing more of the tempo threats, so you can play more of the tempo deck with just like this Babadi and a Go Tanks or Jiren kind of play, which is what you want the most. But also having less chance to whiff, which is like the big thing. So yeah, I think hopefully this video helps. I know I've been rambling. I've been making a lot of long pauses and trying to figure out. Jen had that weird little moment. But hopefully this helps, like with a little bit of, you know, kind of like how my brain works when I'm thinking about cards, think about what to add, what to cut, stuff like that. I think I really brought you through the process, because I had to make this 3rd draft, and I didn't have the 3rd draft on hand. I only had 2, and I'm just dumb. So I thought that was pretty funny. But hopefully this video will help you out. Once again, thank you, Trip Edge. I'm gonna put this on your Reddit comment, and hopefully it helps you out a little bit with making a deck. I would help you with the Frieza deck. I kind of would rather have you watch the Buhan deck list video, if you actually watched it to this far. Watching the Buhan deck list video and watching me go over that one, hopefully it might kind of let you give a different image on how to play Mecha Frieza and the deck list that I kind of chose with it. But if you would like help, just go ahead and message me on Reddit. You know, do whatever. If you're in the Discord, I'm on the Discord. You know, I'd be happy to help. This is kind of fun for me, actually. I kind of like making this deck, and I like kind of showing my process of how I went from this abomination of playing 20 red threats and like no survivability whatsoever to a deck that looks like it can compete in all ranges of the game, in the early game, late game, middle game. So yeah, hopefully this helped. Let me know how it worked for you. I know I brought up this big browser. I didn't even use any of these. I mean, if we had to look through cool red threats, you know, the hits not where you want, and you probably want to be looking at the set 2 ones if you want to be looking at cool ones. So I guess it is a little annoying that I just had this window up in the whole entire video, but hey, you know, this is something I was trying. But yeah, let me know if any of you guys liked it, or if any of you guys learned anything, if there's any other bystanders watching this, and definitely if you were the owner of the post, let me know if I dropped a nice fun little knowledge bomb on you. These are all my opinions and how I feel I perceive the game. Everybody's different, and I'm down to talk about any debates that anybody really has. Um, but yeah, I really don't have any plugs because I just started doing this. So let me know how this works out for you. Comments, Reddit, Discord, one of the three. I'm always happy to help you. Yeah, and take it easy.